What's going on, everyone? Today I'm back here with the Crawlmaster rig, and my plan for today is actually to cut off the rear fenders of the J-Concepts Bog Hog body and make my own out of sheet metal. So the reason that I want to do this is that after crawling with this thing on the rocks over the last couple of weekends or so, that it's actually cracked the Lexan back where my rear body mount is. It's a fixed point, and you know, when you hit or rub that, it bends out of the way, but it also just puts a lot of force on it and ends up breaking the Lexan. So I just want to try and fix all that, and I think some metal rear fenders will actually be a lot cooler than the Lexan ones. The Lexan ones on this actually aren't the right style for a Willys truck body, so I want to try and make them a little bit more appropriate shaped. My goal is to make it out of some thin steel sheet metal and then add another body tab or two so that I can bolt those into place on the chassis itself. But then I'll need to make some other sort of body mounting method for the actual cab portion that will be left. The only other thing that I want to do is I want to make some steel tube style rock sliders or some steel sheet metal style rock sliders. I haven't totally decided, but that is the last thing on my list for fabrication on this thing. But those fenders are definitely the first thing. So I need to get this thing torn down slightly, and I need to get the body cut off so that I can just start mocking up exactly where and how things are going to get mounted so that I can move forward from there. So I'm going to do a little bit of disassembly, and then we're going to take it out and start mocking up some steel. Okay, I definitely didn't get to the rock sliders. The fenders took quite a while. I kind of thought that they would probably take a while just based on kind of the rough idea that I had. I knew that I was going to do the bowed out top style, more like an actual Willys truck rather than how the J Concepts ones were more of a come up and kick in. That's just based on you have certain limitations when you're molding a Lexan body, and that was one of them. One thing that I really wanted to accomplish was I wanted to close up this wheel well opening. It was just too big, especially for these size tires, so that's why I moved it back. I started by moving it back an inch on my template, then you might have seen that I actually moved it forward about a 1/4 inch, so about 3/4 of an inch different between the J Concepts fender and my fender here. So I'm actually I'm pretty happy with that and how it fits this tire much better now. And then I was thinking about trying to do a sheet metal style fender lip, kind of like this one here. Now, I did remember though that during articulation, the tire actually would come up and rub on this. And if I had a sharp sheet metal edge there, I figured that it would have eventually, or even quickly, cut through the tire. So that's why I decided to do the 1/8 inch solid rod on the fender lip like I did on the top of the bedside. I wanted to do it on the top of the bedside because the Willys trucks have a rolled top edge, and the easiest way that I could achieve that was by actually brazing on a piece of solid rod. So I think that's going to add strength, of course, and the style that I was after. So I'm actually pretty happy with that. Overall, I kept the exact same length of the steel fender versus the J Concepts Lexan fender, but you know, this was bending in a lot. Now this one, I expect that it could bend, and if it does, I think it'll actually probably look cooler because it'll kind of stay and it'll look like trail damage, and I think overall that's a much cooler look than the Lexan that I had on there. Now these are definitely going to be much heavier than Lexan, you know, but it is 24 gauge steel and then 2 pieces of small 1/8 inch rod. Obviously I'm not like insanely worried about my weight on this thing. I'm more looking for style and cool factor than anything, but they're a little heavy, but 24 gauge steel is very thin. If you've never seen it before, I mean, it's thinner than the Lexan. One surprising thing though is that this 24 gauge isn't likely going to dent very much. If it's going to do anything, it's going to bend. So we'll see how it does. We'll see how the strength of these panels works out. But in general, I think the sound is going to be cool when you hit or rub these things on the rocks, and the look is what I was going for. I didn't get to put in my body mounts or my cab mounts now. I'll work on that here soon, but I wanted to do new rock sliders, and I think I'll integrate those two things into one system so that it's just nice and clean and one less part on there. Overall though, super happy with the look. I am going to paint them. Obviously I'm not going to match this chrome color. I think I'm probably going to go with some sort of just contrasting black. You know, obviously we've got a lot of black accents, and I think that black would be the easiest thing to do. I don't know. I haven't 100% made up my mind on that. I'm not going to paint it the cage color. I don't want it to match the chassis itself. I think it needs a contrast from the chassis. But that's, you know, the biggest decision I think I have at this point is just cleaning it up, priming, painting the fenders. I will need to strip down the chassis and touch up the paint in the areas where I had to grind off to add new mounts, but I'm not going to do that until I figure out the sliders and add any points that may be needed there. If I don't need to add anything else to the chassis, then we're good to go. And if I wanted to, I could actually just mask off those very small areas that I had to grind to weld on and then just shoot it with the paint again. That is one nice thing of paint over powder coat, is that you can do easy area touch-ups without having to strip down everything, completely strip the chassis and reshoot it. So that is one reason, and one of the biggest reasons, that I prefer paint over powder coat on my chassis. Another detail that I added was the kicked in lower portion of the bed. It just helps, again, it's one more contour, going to add just a little bit more strength to the panel. I followed the fender well around that line as well. Just flows well, looks, you know, it gives it some depth. You know, being that I'm making these by hand with some tin snips and a welder, trying to add depth I think is important. At least from here you guys will see a set of rock sliders and then new body mounting systems. So check back on that one. We'll see you guys later. Thanks for watching another fabrication video. It's definitely been a good time getting back to these, and this truck has been a lot of fun to be that first subject. But with that, guys, hit the like button if you enjoy these videos, subscribe if you're not already, hit the notification bell so you see them as soon as I upload, comment with whatever you guys have about the build. I appreciate all of the feedback, and thanks for watching. We'll see you on the next one.